All right. Well, welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited.
So, for starters, can you just kind of start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what your journey has been?
Yeah, for me, my role, I'm a certified high performance coach. My name is Natalia Rodriguez. I'm also a parent of a special needs child as well. And I also have, for lack of a better word, a typical child as well. My special needs is 12 years old. That's my daughter, Nisi. And then I have my son, Magic, who is 7. And, two different worlds, that's for sure. That's something that I've noticed is like, back in 2007, when I became a special needs mom, it was like this whole new world that I didn't even know existed, right? Like opened up to me. And I think it was then, through that journey, like I was devastated, right? In the beginning, it was my first child, and I was devastated when I got the diagnosis. And my daughter has a diagnosis of Cre-du-Shaw syndrome. So it's a deletion on the fifth chromosome P arm. And when we first got that diagnosis, I mean, it broke me down, right? But that's kind of what started me on this whole journey, because I gave up a lot of me for my child, which at that time, that's what I felt needed to happen, right? And so I poured a lot out. And because I was in this new world, um, I had to figure it out, right? And so I think through figuring it out myself and coming out that other end, like going from devastation, and then having to pick myself up off the ground, get myself well, start taking care of me again, and then coming to acceptance of, this is my new life. Um, Now I want to help other people through that process, right? And so before I even knew what high performance was, I felt like that was my journey, right? Like I had to gain things I teach my clients are like upping their courage, and I had to gain the courage to kind of get myself up off the floor again, right? And
Mhm.
start becoming resourceful and figuring out how do I take care of this child, with special needs. And so, that whole journey has brought me right here, to helping other parents and helping other leaders high perform in their life so that they can sustain this journey, wherever they're at in their life, right? Wherever they are, whether they're an entrepreneur, right? Um, Whether they're a special needs parent, just kind of like figuring out what do I need at this point and lifting them up again, giving them hope and encouragement. So yeah, I mean,
Ah,
it's been a long journey to get here. um, but I've learned so much along the way. And so that's why I'm here, speaking with you, Candace, is because I want to give back and I want to share that hope, with other parents, with other people.
I absolutely love what you say about just how you really had to take initiative and start to be like resourceful and, how it was really kind of a process of just realizing like, you know, um, what what your daughter was like and then really coming to that full kind of turnaround to really accept like what you needed to do and take steps forward. That is just absolutely fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your journey has kind of shaped your way of thinking just in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so for me, it's been about, I talk about resilience a lot, right? So, the acceptance of things, and then not even trying to fight where I'm at, right? During any part of that process, because I feel like in the beginning, yes, I try to control a lot of things. And so for me, it's like now it's about resilience and adapting. And even that's a perfect conversation where, with all these, new things can come into your life at any point. And so learning how to be resilient and kind of adapt to your environment or anything that's thrown on your plate, because with special needs kids, like, we don't know, right? Like, you, from day to day, like, it's very different. And so that shaped me. Also, mental toughness. I talk a lot about mental toughness, with clients as well. And for me, that's not playing the victim, right? Like, we get to choose how we see our life, and we get to choose how what road we take next, right? And so it's like, it's always having that mental toughness thoughts, that I can get on the other side of this. There is a solution. I even tell my, we were starting online school this week, and I was even telling my son, because he was getting completely frustrated. And I know as parents, like, we do that too, right? Where we don't know the answer. Sometimes we don't know how to help our children, or what's the best method, to do this, whether it's, OT, PT, speech, that kind of thing. And so my son was getting frustrated with online school. And I'm like, here's the thing, honey. I'm like, everything is solvable. Like, if you believe that there's a solution, there is a solution, because sometimes we can throw up our hands and say, oh, like, I'm frustrated, but that doesn't help you move forward. So resilience, mental toughness, I've had to learn a lot of patience, right? That too, along with not being frustrated. And then being resourceful, like you talk about, listening to podcasts like Candace's, right? Listening to this kind of stuff that will help you move forward in life.
Yeah. It reminds me when you said that. I don't know if you've ever listened to Marie Folio, but
Yes.
she
Okay.
has a book called Everything is Figure Outable. And I can't even begin to say how many times that has helped me to, like, just get in the right mindset instead of, like, wanting to throw up my arms and just give up. And, just thinking to myself, there's always a solution. I just got to figure out what my next best step
Mhm.
is so huge. So that's so awesome that you mentioned that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
what do you think are some top myths that you often see?
Oh man. Okay. So I work with a lot of moms, and one of the top myths is the superwoman mindset. So, and I had that in the beginning too. And when I've done conferences and things like that, I'll see that out in the audience, where we do have a superwoman mindset, of trying to do it all ourselves, right? And we don't ask for help. At least that was my part of my journey. Even that I learned, taking care of a child, with special needs, that I needed help, and then becoming an entrepreneur as well. It was like I needed 10 times, 10 times the help, right? So, I mean, the superwoman mindset is a big myth. It will keep you struggling. It will keep you isolated. It will keep you feeling alone. And as a special needs parent, I feel like we already sometimes can feel, alone, maybe like other people don't understand. And that one too, that one's a myth too, that people don't understand. And so here's what I share with a lot of people is, it doesn't matter if someone's not going through the exact same thing as you. Like, every human being understands what it feels like to struggle or have a challenge in their life, right? Most of us humans have been on the ground and needed help. So, I mean, those two things kind of correlate, where it's like, don't have the superwoman mindset, like, ask for help, don't isolate yourself, and know that even if someone doesn't understand your exact journey, it's great to reach out to, you know, other special needs parents, people who have, you know, if you have a child with autism, reach out to those. But to think that, you know, just even a tip, you know, a normal parent, whatever that is, you know, that doesn't have a special needs kid, to think that they don't understand your journey. Oh, they do. It's just for them, they have different challenges than we do, you know. So those are some myths where, you know, other people won't understand my journey, you know, they don't understand how hard it is, and I've got to do it all myself. Those are some really big myths. And so we have to, you know, understand that no, like you have to ask for help. You need help. It takes a community. It takes therapists. Um, I remember when my daughter was first born, all these new people coming into my home. And I'm like, who are these people? And why are they here? You know, but I've developed such great relationships. And that's kind of the perspective I have too about this entire special needs journey, is there's a lot of blessings in it. People that I would have never met, even you, Candace, like people that I would have never met are in my life because my daughter's in my life. And she gives me purpose too. I mean, my whole journey, right? It's like brought me here. So,
Oh my gosh. You give me chills by just saying that. It's such a wonderful thing to think of it that way too. I love that. So kind of tell us like your top 5 different things that you think that every parent needs to know, and some different things that you've just learned along this journey for yourself.
yeah. So I'd say it first starts with space, right? Like the patience. Um, learn to give yourself space and your child space, because that's where the frustration, if you don't know how to regulate that, right? Like if you can't understand, like I'm getting a little frustrated, my child's getting a little frustrated, and OT, this even applies, you know, to therapies. It's like if you see that they're getting frustrated, let's take a little break. You know, let's take a brain break, let's take an actual like physical break. And I've even taught, like, you know, we do break, like my daughter will tell me like I need a
Mm-hmm.
break, because then we get into full meltdown if we don't, either us or them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're both human. I feel like that's another myth too, that only special needs kids or kids with autism have sensory issues. No, we all have them. We all have sensory needs, right? Like we all want a hug every now and again, right? A really tight
Mm-hmm.
hug to make us feel better. So understanding how we are a lot like them too helps us bridge that connection with our children. So I've understood, because I became so aware of my daughter and her needs, I also have become hyper aware of my own needs. When I need a hug, when I need, I teach this to my, you know, my high performance clients too, is like, I have a mask, like I have you know, like a sleep mask, where if I'm spending too much time in front of my computer, like my eyes need to take a rest. And so understanding that we're very similar, you know, things that work for them also work for us, you know, and vice versa. Only their sensory, like maybe we can tolerate a little bit more than what they can, right? Like we can tolerate more touch. But if someone, you know, if someone's like suffocating you, you're like, oh, you know, okay, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Even my 7-year-old will be like, that's enough, mom, that's enough kisses, enough hugs. You know, so we are very similar. The more that we actually are aware of that and pay attention to that. So that's one of them, is the space. And then going back to the superwoman mindset, you know, or even super dad, right? Because my trainer, like he's a single dad, and allowing other people in, like, is another top thing. that I'd say is allow other people to help and understand that they're part of it as well. Like invite them in. It's okay to ask for help. I remember, because we can suffer mom guilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we think like we have to be there for everything, every single appointment, right? Every therapy appointment, every doctor appointment. I've got to be the one to work with my child. At least I had that mindset in the beginning. Like it was very hard for me to let go because probably 0 through 5, I was her major caretaker, and now she's 12. So, I've been through that process. Um, but allowing other people to come in and also help out was really big for me. So I had to kind of do that in steps for myself.
Yeah. And so out of curiosity, like who and like how did you kind of find those people? Like are they people that you just already had in your life, or did you kind of reach out, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, great question. So probably I'd say a little bit of both. So there would, there'd be friends that I currently have that would just offer, I'll watch her. And at the time, like I remember way back, she was on oxygen. She was like on a heart monitor, like things like that. And so it was tough for me to let go, but I had to learn, even I had some of my friends like, it'll be okay. Like, just show me how to do that. Right. Like, show me how to feed her. Show me how to work with her, how to communicate. And I think that's a big thing. I love that you asked that question, Candace, because in order for us to feel comfortable, one thing I notice with parents is if we teach someone how to interact with our kid, right? If we invite them into our life and then we show them how, and we're like, oh, this little mannerism of them, especially if they don't talk, like my child does not, she doesn't have any words. She has very little words. And she has a lot of sign language. But when I started to teach people, oh, this sign means this, and here's what, like, she'll make this little movement if she needs this and that kind of thing, then I started to feel more comfortable. But to answer your question, it was a little bit of both. It was some, people currently in my life that were saying, it's okay, go ahead, like, show me how, and I'll help you, kind of thing. And then it was also me reaching out. So, reaching out to other parents, with similar, with a similar child with the same syndrome, or just in general, you know, I had to do a little bit of both of that. And that's what I recommend to parents is if you don't have, help right now, is like search for these people. They're out there, connect and, just say, hey, I see you have a child with special needs, you know, send them a message. We've got Facebook, you know. So it's been a little bit of both, definitely.
I know it is nice that there's just so many more resources now than I feel like there used to be, where it does help to be able to connect with more people that are in similar situations for sure.
Yeah, thank goodness for like social media and podcasts and YouTube and all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true. Like we have so much more available at our fingertips, than in the beginning of my journey. I still searched online, that's where, my journey started, was just like how to this, how to that, just figuring out what to how to move ourselves and our children forward. So absolutely.
Yeah. Neat. Neat. Any other tips that you want to really share with the parents?
Yeah. Um, Going back to, I think perspective, I teach psychology mastery. That's what I call it in my sessions, in the high performance coaching, is psychology mastery. And I think it really, really starts there, is like, how am I looking at my journey? What am I saying to myself? when things get super hard. So you must gain perspective, you know, about what is happening with your child, or, you know, just the journey that you're on as well. Just having great perspective. Like, what am I saying to myself? What am I repeating to myself? Am I telling myself? And we all, you know, we all have our days, right, where things get a little bit harder and it's hard to see the sunshine. You know, it can't be, you know, because that's one thing that you know, it's not about like being super positive or anything like that. It's just about having the right perspective for me, because I know that it's tough. I know that it's hard. Like, I admit that. But how are we saying that to ourselves? Like, is that something that you're constantly repeating to yourself, or you're like, oh, you know, doing this? Because I still deal with diapers at 12 years old, you know, and that's not fun to me. So it's like what you're saying to yourself about your journey. So gaining perspective, I would say, is another one. You know, the story that you're repeating about your child, because your child has a lot of abilities. Don't tell yourself like, my child can't. Try to figure out what special abilities they have, you know. So that's a big one too. And then the other one would be, if you have a spouse or a significant other, you know, definitely you want to keep that relationship front and center as well. You know what I mean? You want to make that as important, because in the beginning of my journey, like, it was, again, like I said, I kind of lost my identity, and it was, you know, helping her survive. You know, it was about keeping her alive, you know, in the beginning too. And there was a lot of work to be done. So, you know, bringing your marriage into it and having date nights, you know, keeping the fun too. Like, I don't think special needs parents play enough, because we have a lot on our plate, a lot on our plate. And in my sessions too, like, we develop like 3 words for ourselves, and that's one of mine, is like play, because I want to play more. I definitely need to learn that. So just having those mental things help,
Yeah.
definitely, a lot.
Oh, absolutely love that. There are so many just amazing nuggets, like in just what you just said, and all so, so true. So throughout, oh, excuse me. So kind of throughout this whole journey, what is like the main message that you would just love to be able to, like, if you got to just be in front of a mom right now that is just kind of starting off her journey and trying to figure out how's she going to do all this, like, what is the one big message that you would love to share with this mom?
Oh my gosh. I say this all the time. And so I hope you're ready to hear this, because it's very important, right? It's like my number one top tip. So, your most valuable resource, I'm going to tell you right now, I wish I would have known this in the beginning. Your most valuable resource is your energy. And so you want to protect that at all costs. You want to keep that up. You want to eat well. You want to sleep well. You want to take care of yourself. And I know it's such a backwards way of what, you know, other people tell you, right? You think, you know, you've got to put the child first and that kind of thing, but you cannot take care of your child to your fullest potential, your fullest ability. You cannot show up full of joy, ready to take this journey on, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do not take care of yourself first. So protect your energy, pay attention to that, learn how to cultivate more joy, you know, in the journey. Like I said, play more, go on date nights with your husband, like, make sure you are doing that, because it will translate to your children, right? Like, your children do feel that energy. They know when mom's not happy or when she's sad. And it's okay to have times like that. Like, I've let my children see me cry and they're like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "It's a tough day, honey." You know? And
Yeah.
I think we need more of that transparency too as parents. But yeah, absolutely. If you're just starting out your journey, take care of yourself. like take care of your mental well-being, your physical well-being, your emotional well-being. Like it all matters, and you will be happier for it. Your husband or your, you know, boyfriend or whoever you have out there will be happier for it, and your children will definitely feel that. And children love a happy parent. They love a happy parent, right? And I mean, that's really what we want as parents, because then we teach them how to show up in the world and how to treat other people. And if we don't have good energy, if we're tired all the time or have too much on our plate, you know, it affects it. It affects how we show up, for
Oh my
sure.
gosh, so so true. You know, one of the things that I've always thought about, and I love to kind of share this with people too, is the idea of if you're taking care of yourself first and putting yourself and making sure that you have that energy, that you're really being like response able instead of responsible, but like response able to be
Yes.
able to respond to like, your spouse or your child instead of
Mm,
just reacting to all the different things that kind of happen during the day. So yeah, that is so, so true about making sure that you need that energy and just how huge that is to be able to really be a teacher and, and show your child,
mm-hmm.
how to manage all the different stressors that they have because they learn so, so much from you just by watching. Even if
Yeah.
you don't think that they do, like, and
Mm-hmm.
they're so tuned into like your emotions and things like that more than I think we give them credit for
Uh-huh.
sure. All
Yeah.
right, so let's get going into the rapid fire questions. So,
Okay.
first question is, what's one thing that parents listening could implement today that would help them?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So here, you know, and it's hard to just say this to someone if you're not quite there yet, right? Um, but I want to try to help, you know, people get there too as well, because it helped me a lot. And we all do this different ways. But for me, I'd say acceptance, right? Acceptance of, and it's not even just like you don't have to be happy about it. Like that's not, to me, that's not what acceptance is. Because I could be going through like a really hard time. But again, not fighting that struggle and like kind of letting it flow, like allowing it to happen, just accepting where you are and where your children are, I think will be so much happier. Like I can feel, like literally, I can feel like my body melting as I say that, because it's like you relieve the pressure instead of thinking, being so much into the future. And yes, you know, again, I work with high performers. We're all about, you know, longevity. We're all about the next level and that kind of thing. We want to reach for those things, but I think we also need to learn to, it is a process, and that's okay. Like if my child only had, you know, they only have a couple of words, like that's all right. It is like, it is what it is. I am where I am, kind of
Mhm.
thing. And I think that relieves so much pressure on ourselves, because I think that's the number one thing that will steal our joy, is like too much pressure, too much things, always running for the next thing, which is so weird to hear a high performance coach say that, right? You're like, we're always running for the next thing, but we need to be present as we're like planning for our future or planning for our children's future. So if we can get to acceptance, especially when we feel overwhelmed, if we can just be like, okay, I'm going to stop throwing this shit fit right now, and I'm just going to like be where I'm at, right? Like I'm going to be like, okay, it's okay. I am where I am. We are where we are. Like it's okay. And you can breathe in that moment. I think that will help them also do what you said, Candice, which is be response able, right? And life will just flow so much easier. You'll be so much happier. So that would be the thing, you know, if I can help parents understand that, is just try to cultivate some more acceptance, you know, in the journey, because it is a long journey. And I think if we just fight it all the time, it will be really miserable.
Yeah. Oh, that is so, so true. When I think too, like being able to first accept and then then you feel like you have the space to actually then take that step forward, where before I think that you're just, it's hard not to just fight everything that's going on, you
Yeah.
know? And so, yeah. Oh, so very
Yeah.
true.
I giggled when you said that, because when you said that, I heard like being stuck.
Mhm.
Right. And that's what'll keep us stuck, is like too much pressure. Um, Always want it to be different than what it is. That'll keep you stuck. So, because like you said, in order to move forward, like that right there will help you, kind of get that out the way. And okay, now I can breathe. And so what's the next step? What's the next best step? Like you said.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so good. So if you could offer just one piece of advice to a mother, what would that be? Just one,
Yeah.
which is always hard to choose.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's like I feel like I gave that one away already, which about the energy. Um,
Yeah.
but
One that.
I mean that one, I would say that, but also you're doing enough already. If I can say one thing to a mom, I know you as a fellow mom, like you're doing enough already. You are. I remember being at last year's conference, and I think we were in an OT session too, like it was an OT talking, and or it could have been a speech therapist. And this, no, it was a speech therapist, and the mom's just like, we've got this many signs, and we're, I have this many therapies going on during the week, and I've tried everything. And I heard her talking, and I could not help but just chase her out the room when the session was over. And I just acknowledged her for everything that she was doing with her child already. Like, so I know that you are doing the best that you can, so learn to acknowledge yourself and appreciate yourself too, and give yourself the thanks that you deserve. Because um I didn't do I started to learn that one recently, which was like, appreciate how much I'm doing, you know say thank you to the woman that's showing up every day, fighting for herself and her family and her child to get better and grow. And so please, please, please appreciate how much you're doing already.
When I think, especially moms, I feel like we don't give ourselves enough kudos a lot of times. Like I know, like when I would go to IEP meetings and I just heard all these things that my son had a hard time with, all I all I could think is all the things that I should be doing. And like
Mm-hmm.
I had to force myself to start like being like, no, look at all the things that you already are doing. And
Yeah.
that makes a huge, huge difference. Cause yeah, it's really hard sometimes to focus on
Yeah.
what you are doing and not just focusing on all the things that you've been told or you've been reading, or you feel like you have pressures from other people to make sure that you do too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is such an important point, such an
Yeah,
important
I've
point.
been in those meetings too. I mean, for the first few years, I probably walked out of those like in tears, or very angry, because it's like, you're telling me all these things about my kid, and it is hard, because as human beings, we can compare ourselves, right, as moms, and then we can compare our children to other children that are way different, and so we, again, back to the acceptance, like we have to accept that it's okay to be different, that you are doing enough, and hold the space for ourselves too before we even walk in a meeting like that, right? Like preparing ourselves that we will hear these things, and it's okay, and you don't got to run out of there and like, immediately start the 10,000 therapies they just told you to go do, or the 10,000 methods,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, we again, it's a process, and I think the professionals, they're so excited to give us the information, and they want to help us help our children. So yes, they can go bleh, on us. They can vomit all this information. And I don't think it's meant to add pressure to us. I think it's definitely meant to help. So even understanding that from the professional's point of view of like, I understand now that they really want to help, and that's why they give you so much resources. But pick two, like walk out of there and be like, these two, I took 5 pages of notes, but I'm going to do 2 of those, so you're not overwhelmed as a mom. Because I know, like, again, we already have so much on our plate, or even as a dad, because I know there's dads listening too. But no, you don't have to do them all, and it's okay, and you're doing enough already. And so yeah, I love that you brought up that of the IEP meetings. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that is fantastic too, about figuring it out too, what's like manageable for you. And I think recognizing too, like what season that you're in. Like maybe sometimes you are able to do a little bit more. And then other times you're like, this is all I can handle, and just, accepting it
Mm-hmm.
and being okay with that, I think too,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
think one of the gifts we're given as special needs parents is awareness. I think we have hyper awareness, compared to most people, because sometimes our kids don't talk, right? Or they have a different way of communicating, and we need to be able to see those little things, or even just see the little improvements that they're making, as well.
Mhm.
So I love that you're saying that completely. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could just recommend one book to our listeners today, what is one book that you've read that has really helped you?
Yeah. So for me specifically, for my child too, is the Out of Sync Child. So that helped me understand my child's world a little bit better. There's a story in the book where it's like I put on these goggles and like I can't barely, my world looks different. So that book helped me see the world through my child's eyes. And it also gave me a lot of things too, again, that I can implement a little bit at a time to help them, with the sensory integration and things like that. So I love that book because as parents, and for myself too, I try to step out of my world and try to step into, Nisi's world, and like, how is she viewing this situation? How does she feel right now with us asking her to do all these things that could be frustrating? Like one of the things we're working on right now is self-feeding. And I get it. I went, and it's funny because I can even pull things from my regular life that I'm like, this must be how she feels. And
Mhm.
again, I think that's that hyper awareness. But we went and ate at a restaurant, and I was like, I'm gonna try these chopping sticks. I'm gonna try the chopsticks. So I'm like trying to pick up the rice with the chopsticks, and I'm very great at it with other things, but I was trying to pick up the rice with chopsticks. And I'm like, screw this, I'm getting my fork, right? So I understand. And, it made me think of her because I'm like, I understand how she feels, because it is frustrating. Like if you're trying to eat and you're hungry and you're going to pick up a spoon and like put food, but it's all falling off. Like you're like, no, mom, I'm just going to use my hands because that's easier. So if we start to understand their world from their perspective, it's less frustrating for us as parents. We're like, okay, I get you, honey. I get how you would feel this way, but we still got to work. And so one of the tips too that I'd give parents is, if you are working on self-feeding, one of the things that helped us was making sure she didn't go into the session, our meal session or our OT session, or, already hungry, because then she's just more likely to not, like, she's like, I'm hungry, I need to just get this food in, as opposed to, if I'm not hungry, okay, I'm a little bit more patient with learning the spoon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I
Nice.
think I went off on a
No,
tangent.
but that is a really great tip, though. I like that. That is awesome. Well, and I think like the thing that I've really heard you say throughout all of this is how much of a journey it's been for, I think, obviously both your daughter and like how she's worked on things and has just developed over time, and like how much of a journey it really is even for the parent, and like how much more I think you're probably just so thankful for the things that you have learned and like the things that you're more aware about, because you do have to take care of her. So like recognizing like, oh gosh, like if this is really hard for me, like what must my child feel like? And like I think that's such an important thing for just all parents. But I think that if you're a parent of a child that doesn't develop the same as other kids, you get that ability to also learn that right along with them and kind of even understand yourself a little bit better too.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about her when I do hard things, even in my, when I'm with my trainer and he's making me lift heavier, and I'm like, it, it must feel like that, for my child on a daily basis to, just walk up the stairs if her
mm-hmm.
because, she has problems with muscle tone and that kind of thing. I still push her because I love her, right? I still
Mm-hmm.
make her do it because that's my role as her parent, is to make her stronger. But I also, understand that part of it too, that it is difficult for her. So that helps me like not be frustrated, right, about the journey as well. So, and it gives us a connection too, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's because when you do have a child that doesn't communicate like the rest of the world, it can feel like they're kind of not there. Like I remember it took a long time for her to just have eye contact with me. That was something I was always looking for in the beginning, was just give me a smile, have eye contact with me, please, and so I've had to learn different ways. She's way much better with eye contact. She can do that now. But it's helped me find different ways instead of what we're used to, or what would be considered, quote unquote quote normal. It's helped me, by understanding her, find different ways where we can connect on a different level. And it's helped me feel close to her, because me and my son, who's 7, we have a different type of connection, and that's okay, because we actually have vocabulary and words and things like that. So finding different ways to connect with your child, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, so neat. You have said so many amazing, wonderful things that I think are going to be so helpful for so many of the parents listening. Can you share with us how they might be able to connect with you some more?
Yeah, so absolutely. So you can find me on facebook.com/Natalia Rodriguez online. And then also I have a great resource for moms. So it's called the top 5 reasons moms stay exhausted. So you could go grab that resource on 5mommistakes.com.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to include that in the show notes too. Thank you for providing that
Okay.
resource for everyone.
Yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
and thank you again for just taking your time and being here. And yeah, can't thank you enough. So have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, Candace. Appreciate it.